Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityo Ma Amritam Gamaya Apirapirma Eti Rudrayate Dakshinamukam Te Namam Pahinityam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the ever-changing to the unchanging. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, and guide us evermore with thy loving presence. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So, good evening. This is a class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which I'm taking tonight for Swami Avikarananda. My name is Swami Nishpapananda. I'm visiting the Vedanta Society of Western Washington from St. Louis, Missouri, and very happy to be here. So we're taking up where Swami left off last time. It's the 5th chapter of the unabridged Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and the title is The Master and Keshab. The date is October 27, 1882, and this is a steamer trip. Keshab Chandra Sen, the teacher of the Brahmo Samaj, has hired a steamer, a big boat, to take his students and followers and friends on the Ganges, and he's, the steamboat with Keshab and the Brahmo followers cast anchor alongside the Kali temple at Dakshinaswar. And the whole point was to take the Master Sri Ramakrishna on a boat trip, but while on the boat trip, Sri Ramakrishna is going to be Sri Ramakrishna. He's going to talk to everybody. When he's not in samadhi, he's going to teach, and he's going to look at them, and he's going to see their whole minds, and, okay, this is what you need right now, boom. Okay, this is what you need right now, boom. So we're in the middle of that. We're about 6 pages into, and in fact, it's a big boat. So they got a little boat to bring Sri Ramakrishna and whoever was with him in his room at Dakshinaswar when all this occurred, to ferry them from the Kali temple out to the big steamer. And no sooner does Sri Ramakrishna get in the boat than he goes into samadhi. He's off. Okay. So he's getting on the boat, he's coming down from samadhi, and he's just hitting on all cylinders from the get-go, coming out of samadhi. So now I'm going to backtrack a little bit from where Swami Avikarananda was on page 138 last time, so that we get, or mainly, you've got the context, mainly so that I get the context. So Sri Ramakrishna is speaking. He says, once someone gave me a book of the Christians. I asked him to read it to me. It spoke about nothing but sin. Then to Keshab. Now, keep in mind, he's the big guy here. He's the teacher of this group of followers. Queen Victoria has praised his oratory. I mean, he's a big guy. The book talked about nothing but sin. Then to Keshab, sin is the only thing one hears of at your Brahmo Samaj too. So Sri Ramakrishna is no respecter of people. And Keshab knows this, and he's open to instruction. He doesn't have this horribly big, ugly ego. He wants to interact with Sri Ramakrishna. He wants to be instructed by him, and he knows that it's good for him. So in one sense, he's his student, but not quite his disciple. He's an admirer, a student. He's open to being taught by him, but he's not at the point where he's really surrendered heart and soul to whatever Sri Ramakrishna is saying. But they have this kind of wonderful working relationship, and Keshab's sharing it with his followers here. To Keshab, sin is the only thing one hears about at your Brahmo Samaj also. The wretch who constantly says, I am bound, only succeeds in being bound. The person who says day and night, I am a sinner, verily becomes a sinner. One should have such burning faith in God that one can say, what? I have repeated God's name. Can sin still cling to me? How can I be a sinner anymore? How can I be in bondage anymore? This is the tamas of bhakti. It says, you know, it's like the robbers who they're not cat burglars. They don't kind of sneak in the night and tiptoe around and steal the jewelry. They break the door down and they're chanting, rob, kill, steal. It's like, I've chanted the name of God but once. How can I be in bondage anymore? If a person repeats the name of God, the body, mind, and everything become pure. Why should one talk about sin and hell and such things? Say but once, O Lord, I have undoubtedly done wicked things, but I won't repeat them, and have faith in his name. So he's essentially telling Keshab that your teachings aren't quite right here, but here's a corrective. Pay attention. And the Brahmo Samaj is a religious and social reform movement in Bengal. And it's one of the primary responses which had come up in Bengal to the challenge of Western culture, which was shaking the very roots of Hinduism. The British occupation of India, the British introduction of Western education, and all this, and the efforts of the Christian missionaries associated with the culture and government of Britain, making efforts to convert Hindus one way or another and change the culture. So it's monotheistic, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but so I won't say too much about it, but it's monotheistic. And in some ways similar to Protestant Christianity. They talk about social reform, widow remarriage, and not marrying off girls too young, things like that. So this, evidently the harping on sin has kind of bled over into the Brahmo Samaj, and it's not really part of the Hindu ethos the way it is and it has become in Christianity. I'm not saying that Jesus had this emphasis on sin. He didn't, as far as I can tell. He came up to a group of people who were about to stone a woman for adultery and said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." And they all dropped their stones. No one threw a stone. And he told the woman, "Go and sin no more." So he didn't seem to have this attitude which has come up in certain branches of Christianity where the teaching is about sin and redemption the way it is now. But some of that has come into the Brahmo Samaj. So when Swami Vivekananda came to this country in 1893 and wanted to teach Hinduism, he had a real challenge. He was coming from a nation which was politically dependent, economically challenged, and the conventional wisdom among educated people is that there was something basically wrong with Hinduism. Idol worshippers, you know, in the Old Testament of the Hebrew Bible, you shall not worship graven images. And Hinduism has 33 million gods and goddesses, all of whom have a graven image. So you see, the conventional wisdom, there's not a lot of deep insight, is that, well, there's something kind of off kilter here. And he's coming as a representative of that religion. And he wants to, he's got a message to the world. And the world really needs to listen. But in order to have people really pay attention to you, you've got to first work at the problem of their basic ignorance. He's got to teach them a little bit about their own deficiencies. So when he's at the Parliament of Religions and delivering his paper on Hinduism, he says, "Children of immortal bliss." He's talking to an audience of primarily Christians who've been taught that they're sinners. Educated, pious people. Children of immortal bliss. What a sweet, what a hopeful name. Allow me to call you brethren by that sweet name. And he's using biblical language. He doesn't speak in biblical language in general when he's speaking at the Parliament of Religions or in the West in general. But for this part of his talk, he's speaking in biblical language. He wants to give his words that kind of authority. So, at least it seems to me. So he's speaking in biblical language. Allow me to call you brethren by that sweet name, heirs of immortal bliss. Yea, the Hindu refuses to call you sinners. Ye are the children of God, the sharers of immortal bliss, holy and perfect beings, ye divinities on earth, sinners. It is a sin to call a man so. It is a standing libel on human nature. Come up, O lions, and shake off the delusion that you are sheep. You are souls, immortal, spirits free, blessed and eternal. Ye are not matter, ye are not bodies. Matter is your servant, not you the servant of matter. So, Swamiji's message to the West and Sri Ramakrishna's message to Kesha are not essentially different. Sri Ramakrishna is speaking Bengali, and Swami Vivekananda, his Naran, is speaking biblical English, but the message is very similar. And it strikes at the heart of Christian doctrine. You see, this is really, Swamiji was Sri Ramakrishna's apostle. He's speaking his message. He's speaking it in English. But when his brother disciples at Baranagormat finally figured out that the person that was over in Chicago making these speeches to Americans, it was causing such a stir, was their Naran, because they didn't know he'd had this name Vivekananda. When they finally figured it out, Swami Shivananda said, you know, we know Swamiji. We lived with him, we talked with him, we argued with him, we heard him, we know his nuances backwards and forwards, right side up and upside down. And these talks that we're receiving from America, it's not Naran's pattern of speech. He spoke in these complex sentences, erudite sentences. This is the Master's pattern of speech. So simple, but it's in English. Mm? So he says, he who says day and night, I'm a sinner, verily becomes bound. The wretch who constantly says, I am bound, only succeeds in being bound. One should have such birthing faith in God that one can say, I have repeated the name of God, and can sin still cling to me? How can I be a sinner anymore? How can I be in bondage anymore? Well, the metaphysical background of that is sin can't touch me. Atman is Brahman. Brahman is consciousness. Tattvamasi. The metaphysical background is that there's, the larger dimension of human being really isn't touched by sin. And that's not something that was at that time part of Western theology, and something that Swamiji wanted the West to be aware of. If one repeats the name of God, the body, mind, and everything become pure. Why should one talk about sin and hell and such things? Say but once, O Lord, I have undoubtedly done wicked things, but I won't repeat them, and have faith in his name. So one day at Dakshineswar, a young boy kind of wandered into Ramakrishna's room, and he saw right away that this kid had really terrible samskaras from terrible family background, born out of wedlock and raised in kind of difficult circumstances. He could, I mean, he says, "What have you done? Tell me everything that you've done. Just tell me, and you'll be free from it." And obviously the boy couldn't do it. He said, "If you can't tell me," he said, "go to the bank of the Ganges and tell Mother Ganga, and you'll be freed from it." Just like that. Well, his samskaras were such that he couldn't do it. But the master wanted that grace to come on this boy. He wandered into his room, and he suddenly wanted this to change, to bless this boy. But he had to do just a little bit, and he wasn't ready. He says, "How can I be a sinner anymore? How can I be in bondage anymore? Oh Lord, I have undoubtedly done wicked things, but I won't repeat them, and have faith in God's name." Now, somehow we've gotten on this topic of Christianity in contradistinction in certain respects to Hinduism. And I was, one of our members, I was actually, had taken a day off during the hot summer in St. Louis and was on a float trip with one of our members and his wife, who is not really a member, but she's okay with all this Vedanta stuff. And St. Louis is this island of kind of liberalism in this sea of red in Missouri, and the whole areas in Missouri where you have scenic rivers and float trips is in the red area. So we got to talking about the Christian faith and the whole milieu of outstate Missouri. And we were going back and forth about what was going on with being saved and how that worked in the Christian churches. And she said, "Well, you know, my father is an honest man, but he's not a very nice person." And he, at some point, found Christ and was saved. And he'd say, "I used to swear and smoke," and then he listed several other vices which are considered sinful. He said, "But since I found God," he says, "I can't do those things anymore." It wasn't a cognitive experience. It wasn't something that he decided to do and worked at. It's like this transformation that happened when he received God's grace through his Christian faith, was such that he really couldn't do those things anymore. So, Sri Ramakrishna, "Oh Lord, I've undoubtedly done wicked things, but I won't repeat them. Have faith in his name." Or he says, "I've repeated God's name, can sin cling to me." It's like there's this transcendent element in all of us. It doesn't matter what the theology is. And once we touch that, we're changed. So Sri Ramakrishna became intoxicated with divine love and sang, "If only I can pass away repeating Mother Durga's name, how canst thou then, O Blessed One, withhold from me deliverance, wretched though I may be?" And then there's a ... So this is on page 88. The whole song is given. So just to kind of elaborate on this, wretched though I may be, what are they talking about? How can thou then, O Blessed One, withhold from me? Deliverance means liberation. Wretched though I may be. I may have stolen a drink of wine, or killed an unborn child, or slain a woman or a cow, or even caused a Brahmin's death. So these are real, real issues. But though it all be true, nothing of this can make me feel the least uneasiness, for through the power of thy sweet name, my wretched soul may still aspire even to Brahmanhood. In other words, I can still get liberated no matter what. And this is what Ramakrishna is telling Keshav and his followers. He says you should emphasize this aspect of your teachings about God, that no matter what you do, the power of God's name and the power of God's grace it trumps that. You're, in Swamiji's words, you're children of immortal bliss. You've got that divine, infinite element in you, and this is what needs to be emphasized if you want to turn towards God, either the formless God or God with form, God without form but with qualities, or the nirguna aspect of God, beyond mind and speech. He then said, to my Divine Mother, I prayed only for pure love. I offered flowers at Mother's lotus feet and prayed to her, Mother, here is thy virtue, here is thy vice. Take them both and grant me only pure love for thee. Here is thy knowledge, here is thy ignorance. Take them both and grant me only pure love for thee. Here is thy purity, here is thy impurity. Take them both, Mother, and grant me only pure love for thee. Here is thy dharma, here is thy adharma. Take them both, Mother, and grant me pure love for thee. Now, this is Ramakrishna's prayer, and it comes up at different times in the Gospel. He'll mention it. And sometimes he'll say, but I couldn't say to the Divine Mother, here is thy truth, and here is thy untruth. Take them both and give me pure love for thee. So he could take these other aspects of duality, of Maya, and offer them to the Divine Mother and say, give me bhakti, give me love for thee. But he couldn't take truth and untruth. He couldn't give up truth, okay? So what's going on here? Reality, I mean, the fundamental discovery of the Hindu ethos is non-dualism, Advaita. Reality appears to be this infinite, changing, always changing, interrelated universe of things and beings. But it's really one undivided ocean of Sat Chidananda. This is the appearance, that's the reality. So what is Sat Chit Ananda? What is reality? The reality part of it is Sat, what is, the isness of things, the reality. It can't, it's beyond thought and words, but the nearest that we come to it, it's knowledge, and bliss. Well, knowledge here doesn't mean relative knowledge. It means the experience of that divine existence. And bliss translates into our normal human aspiration as love. So he can give up all these elements of Maya, all these elements of duality, but he can't give up reality. That's what he's seeking. He's seeking divine love and knowledge of the infinite. He wants to experience Satchitananda. And when he's praying to his Divine Mother, it means in the God with form and qualities in relation to us as human beings. But that's the way Brahman appears to us when it's when it's in a slightly agitated state. It's not beyond thought and words. It's just a little bit, that loving consciousness is moving a bit around. So and this, when you think about it, you give up Dharma and Adharma, and then it says if you follow Dharma, you reach God, you get the four fruits of life, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So following Dharma, you get legitimate pleasure and wealth, everything that you need for ordinary existence, and then continuing to follow that, your spiritual consciousness wakes up, you follow that, and you get on the path of moksha and you transcend all of this. So how can you give up Dharma and Adharma? Take them both, Mother, and grant me pure love for thee. And well, it's a bit of a puzzle. You know, what's actually going on here? Okay. So again, I'll go back to Swami Vivekananda. In the West, he gave this analogy of a pendulum. He says, if life is a pendulum, and one side is happiness, and the other side is misery, we're trying to grab a hold of that pendulum and keep it on the happiness side. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's a big pendulum. We grab onto the pendant at the end of the pendulum, and we just swing back to the other side. It doesn't. So on one hand, on one side is happiness, the other side's misery. One side is virtue, the other side is vice. One side is purity, the other side is impurity, and this is the pendulum of life. It's this play of duality. And it's life and death, it's health and disease, it's all these things. And generally when the pendulum is on the right side, the side we want it to be on, we're okay. And when it's on the other side, we're not. This is normal life. But Swamiji and Ramakrishna both are saying the same thing. Let go of the pendulum. Let go of both Dharma and Adharma, virtue and vice, happiness and misery, health and disease. I mean, this is what comes to us as embodied beings. It says, well, you know, what else is there? Give me pure love for thee. And in this case, for Sri Ramakrishna, it's the Divine Mother. And for those of you that were here last night, the Divine Mother is waves of consciousness and light that came towards him and engulfed him, and he lost outward consciousness. And sometimes she takes a blissful form that kind of looks like a, God knows what, but he'll be at Dakshineswar, and he said, oh, Mother, you've come today. What a nice sari. He's talking to her. You can hear his side of the conversation. You can't hear hers, and you can't see her. But the ever blissful form of the Divine Mother is how he referred to her. And give me pure love for that, for thee. So, okay, let's use the pendulum. So we got this pendulum. It's swinging. It's attached up here. It's swinging down here. This elbow is kind of the weight on it. And what's this attachment up here? Anyone care to hazard a guess? I mean, what's this pendulum of life attached to?
The ego.
The ego, life?
Bondage.
Bondage.
Maya.
Maya. Yeah, all of those things.
What doesn't change? What doesn't swing back and forth? It stays.
The attachment is that which abides. Yeah. But the attachment is through ignorance. So the attachment that holds the pendulum is to ultimate reality viewed through Maya, which makes us think that we're this body-mind complex. That's what holds the pendulum. That's what holds the pendulum, and that's what defines the duality. What is happiness and misery in relationship to? It's in relationship to our ego identification. It's in relationship to our body identification. And that defines what's happiness and what's misery. For most people, their personal pain, physical or mental, is more miserable than other people's. Okay, it's our ignorance of our true self and the true nature of reality leads us to believe that we're the psychophysical constitution when we're actually knower of the psychophysical constitution. Yeah? And that's what holds us, and that's what defines the dualities. And what they are in particular change as we develop. It's not that happiness and misery are caused by the same things as we progress through life. It changes. Someone takes our toys away as a little kid, it's a big deal. They take those things away when we're grown up, no big deal. So it's always changing, but the nexus is our ignorance up there, and we're trying to see ultimate reality through a cloud, and it appears as everyone sees it, this infinite variety of little tiny changing things that are interrelated and live and die and are happy and miserable. So Sri Ramakrishna wants to take that whole world of duality that swings with the pendulum and give it to Mother and say, hey, I don't want that anymore. I don't want to be fooled by that anymore. I just want to love you. You see? So this is how I make sense out of it. But it didn't come to me at first. It's taken quite a while. And I'm sure it's not the only way to look at it. But he couldn't give up truth. So what he wants is the highest truth and divine love. And all this other stuff that's defined by ignorance, he wants to get rid of that. You take it, Mom. I don't want it anymore. I'm done with those toys. So he's teaching here. And the greatness of Keshab is he's brought not just himself, but his followers to be taught by someone who's telling Keshab, you're not quite doing it right. I mean, That's a great man. To the Brahmo devotees, now listen to a song by Ram Prasad. Come, let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree. And there beneath it gather the four fruits of life. Of your two wives, dispassion and worldliness, bring along dispassion only on your way to the tree. Ask her son discrimination about the truth with a capital T. When will you learn to lie, L-I-E, O mind, in the abode of blessedness, with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you? So this is, again, he's dealing with the duality here, the dual with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you. Those aren't the important things if what you want is that divine love and that divine knowledge, the highest truth. When will you learn to lie, O mind, in the abode of blessedness, with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you? Only when you have found the way to keep these wives contentedly under the same roof. That is, cleanliness and defilement under the same roof. Only when you have found the way to keep these wives contentedly under a single roof will you behold the matchless form of Mother Shyama. Ego and ignorance, your parents, instantly banish from your sight. And should delusion seek to drag you to its abode, manfully cling to the pillar of patience, tie to the post of unconcern the goats of vice and virtue, killing them with the sword of knowledge if they rebel. With the children of worldliness, your first wife, plead from a goodly distance. And if they will not listen, drown them in wisdom's sea. Says Ram Prasad, if you do as I say, you can submit a good account, O mind, to the King of Death, and I shall be well pleased with you and call you my darling. Well, he's talking to his own mind, Ram Prasad. So, again, it's kind of the same message, but it's delivered in a different way. And Sri Ramakrishna is singing in his exquisitely beautiful voice. And, you know, it's another level of enchantment to deliver the message. We're reading the words. We're not hearing the music. We're not hearing the musical, the song, and we're not hearing Sri Ramakrishna's voice, which was so otherworldly and enchanting, and would take you up to those. I mean, the other aspect of it is they're in Ramakrishna's presence, and this is someone was in samadhi as he got in the boat to come on the steamer. He's at a whole different place, and they're in proximity to him, and he's in this mood of presenting this song, and he's lifting them up and getting them out of their cognitive ruts so that they can receive the message, so that it can benefit them. And we can't reproduce that here. We're just looking at the words, but the whole package is just must have been something awesome. Let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree. And there beneath it gather the four fruits of life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So, well, that includes the whole gamut of human experience. But it's obvious from the song that Ram Prasad is really interested in moksha. He's not too interested in artha or kama. Come, let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree. And he's talking to his mind. And it's very interesting because he's clearly objectifying his mind. So one definition of mental illness is that we get caught in the waves of the mind. We get trapped there in the waves of the mind. We're identified with the waves of the mind, and we can't get out. So he's very healthy. He's talking to his mind. He says, okay, mind, listen up. He's not identified with the mind. He's instructing the mind. I'm not the mind. It's separated from the mental waves. Let us go for a walk on mind to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree, and there beneath it gather the four fruits of life, but mainly moksha. Of your two wives, dispassion and worldliness. So he's talking, the mind's two wives are dispassion and worldliness. Well, on the one side, you've got your aspiration for moksha, and on the other side, you've got your aspiration for artha and kama, okay, for wealth and pleasure. Of your two wives, dispassion and worldliness, bring along dispassion only on your way to the tree, the wish-fulfilling tree, and ask her son discrimination about the truth. So he's addressing the duality of his own mind, because as spiritual seekers, one of the first things we find out when we decide, well, okay, I'm convinced, you know, there's this larger dimension of being human. Somehow it's touched my life. I feel it, and I'm gonna approach a teacher and get a mantra and start practicing spiritual disciplines and try to head in this direction. Well, you've got that's the dispassion side, okay, and then the worldly side is saying, hey, wait a minute, what about me? I'm here too. You're ignoring me. I don't like that. I'm your wife too. You got two wives, not just one. And then you find out, and then this worldliness part is going to try to cause trouble. You know, you try to think about God, and all these crazy, dumb thoughts come in. Where'd they come from? I thought I was a good person. What happened? I remember I stayed in the center in St. Louis for 7 years before I joined, and a week after, and I thought I was moving in to the center to be with all these old people. I thought, boy, that's a really stupid thing to do, but I get to be with this amazing Swami. I mean, old in those days meant like 50. I thought, oh my. And then to my surprise and joy, a week after I moved in, or maybe it was, yeah, I had decided to take this step. And a week before my date to move in was given, this fellow who was exactly my age came from Indiana to become a brahmachari. So here was someone I could talk to, you know. And he was also living in the basement. And I thought, well, that's nice. So, and he was so happy. He was so happy to be at the center, and he wasn't out alone in rural Indiana practicing spiritual disciplines and Raja Yoga and with no one to talk to. And here he was with this Swami who he respected and living in a place that was dedicated to Ramakrishna. And he'd tell me how happy he was with this new life. And after about 6 months, he said, you know, he said, I don't know. I thought I was a good person. I seem to be going backwards. I'm worse now than I was in Indiana. He says, I don't know if this is the right decision. Very simple, wonderful person who could just tell me what was going on with him. You see, this is, I mean, he's just, I'm struggling with this, and I don't understand what's happening. Well, what happens is your other wife, worldliness, is throwing a tantrum. You're ignoring me. You're trying to go on the dispassion side and ignore me and not give me any sustenance or food and worldliness is acting up and giving you all this trouble. And it's actually quite common if we're sincere. The subconscious mind is such that when the light of the Spirit, when you're actually connecting with God, you're purifying the mind. The light of the Spirit shines on the subconscious mind, and it's shining light on things that you hadn't realized were there, but were there subconsciously prompting you to worldliness. And that light makes those samskaras very restless, and they give you trouble. And you have to just kind of detach, you know? Okay, all right, I'm not gonna own you guys. You just go ahead. Well, there are all kinds of ways of dealing with it, but you have to deal with it to go on. You can't just say, well, I'm a bad person, I'm not suited for this kind of life. It's just what happens. It's just what happens. You're actually making progress. You're getting stronger. The light of the Spirit is illuminating your mind and purifying it. But you can't get thrown off your course because your other wife is acting up. You can't do that. When will you learn to lie, O mind, in the abode of blessedness, with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you? Only when you have found the way to keep these wives contentedly under a single roof. When you behold will you behold the matchless form of Mother Shyama. So you're reaching out and you're giving up this identification which locks us into this world of duality, and makes it possible to experience God. It's like you've got dispassion and worldliness, you've got cleanliness and defilement, and all these other dualities that Ramakrishna is talking about in the previous prayer. And it's like you're up in the highest point of the CN Tower looking down at Toronto with all its tall buildings. And from that vantage point, or say the vantage point of a helicopter and airplane, there are differences down there, but they're not so pronounced. You so it's just on a continuum: cleanliness and defilement, and virtue and vice, and happiness and misery. When you're up there looking down from a great distance, in other words, when you've touched that aspect of being human, which is transcendent, these things lose their hold on you. They lose their reality, and you can keep them contented in the same roof. But when we're identified with those dualities, it's very hard to keep them contentedly under the same roof. So he's using all these analogies, which must be extremely beautiful in Bengali, and Swami Nikhilananda's disciple, John Moffat, was a poet, and he's the one who put this into poetry. And he did a good job, but we still can't get the poetry of the original and the beauty of the original Bengali. So why shouldn't one be able to realize God in the world? King Janaka had such realization. Ram Prasad described the world as a mere framework of illusion. But if one loves God's hallowed feet, then this world is a very mansion of mirth. Here I can eat, drink, and make merry. Janaka's might was unsurpassed. This is another song. What did he lack in the world, of the world or the spirit? Holding to one as well as the other, he drank his milk from a brimming cup. But then he says one can't be King Janaka all of a sudden. Janaka at first practiced much austerity in solitude. And then he's moving on to a different topic. Even if one lives in the world, one must go into solitude now and then. It will be of great help to a person if he goes away from family and lives alone and weeps for God even for 3 days. So he's telling them, you've got to quit harping on sin. That's not, that's, and you've got to try to love God and get beyond this dual play and keep your wives happily under the same roof, dispassion and worldliness. And then he's saying, well, okay, if you want to do that, you have to get away from the world once in a while. So, but all this instruction, there are things that you can read in the books, but he's presenting it in such a way with singing and talking directly to Keshav and then talking directly to his followers. Sri Ramakrishna is presenting it in such a way that many of those people it's going to change their lives. It's going to impact their hard-seated samskaras and motivate them to really reorient themselves and change their lives and put in the effort to walk the path towards God. So we're out of time. No one has sent anything in from online. Perhaps there's no one there. Do you have anything here among those of you who I can now see that you want to talk about or comment on?
What happened to the brahmachari in St. Louis?
You have to repeat the question.
What happened? What happened to the brahmachari in St. Louis? Well, he worked through it. He worked through it, and then I joined, and same thing happened to me. I thought, well, he can work through it. I can work through it too. He was a good teacher. very good person, and really grateful that Sri Ramakrishna has sent him at the same time. Anything else that you want to talk about? Okay, well, it's 8 o'clock by the global positioning time, so I'll say the prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This ever-changing, interdependent universe of things and beings is infinite. That unchanging, self-existent spiritual reality is infinite. This ever-changing universe, having come from that unchanging spiritual reality, that reality remains undivided, unchanged, infinite. Peace, peace, peace be unto all beings.